Good evening, everyone, and welcome to your regular town council meeting of Tuesday, January 21st. If you'd all rise and join me in a pledge to the flag. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Ms. Reed, if you'd call the roll.
Here.
Here. Here.
Vice Chair O'Neill.
Here.
Here. And to Acknowledgements Council.
I want to remind everyone that on this coming Sunday, the free OOB 365 community dinner is scheduled for 1 o'clock to 5 o'clock right down here on Imperial Street at the American Legion. It's a fabulous meal. It happens every year. There's always a great crowd, a chance to meet new friends and old ones, and we invite everyone to attend. If you want to contribute or bring a dish, you can contact Jerry McDonald at McDonald's Garage. Grab a friend, bring a family, come along and meet new friends, and have a delicious Italian dinner.
Thank you very much.
Through the chair, if I may.
Sir.
Just like to take a moment to publicly acknowledge and congratulate a longtime resident and local bartender, Mr. Dennis Coffey, and his success in the TV show Jeopardy. He's been the champion second night in a row now. Third night is tonight, so we wish him continued success and all the best to him. Thank you for bringing the state of Maine to light, and not so much the town of Old Orchard Beach, in which we will have that discussion. So congratulations, Dennis.
Thank you. Any further acknowledgements? Seeing none, to Good and Welfare. Are there any members of the public wishing to speak under Good and Welfare this evening? Seeing none, to the acceptance of minutes. Acceptance of the town council minutes of January 7th, 2020.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, carried 5-0. Into a presentation this evening, Ballpark Commission, second quarterly report from the chairman, John Gallo.
Thank you. Thank you, Council, for this opportunity to present our quarterly Ballpark Commission report to you in accordance with the Ballpark Ordinance, Section 2-403. Much of this work is organized and coordinated through the Ballpark Manager, Guy Fontaine. This report covers the second quarter fiscal year 2020, October 1st through December 31st, 2019. Improvements. The ballpark staff continues to make improvements to the facility and operations. The following were improvements made during the second quarter of fiscal year 20. Transit measurements were taken of the pitching mound, infield, outfield levels to identify any changes that require attention for proper drainage and to maintain a professional level of baseball playfield attributes. Some mound issues were identified and work to correct these began. This work is expected to be completed prior to the April season opening. Maintenance. All events stopped on November 1st, and our focus has been securing the facility for the winter. This includes moving all the equipment to our storage building for off-season inspection and maintenance. This maintenance is done through the winter months to ensure all equipment is ready to be used for the April startup. Stadium water was shut down and drained to prevent broken pipes, as well as the addition of non-toxic antifreeze to all fixtures and straps. A complete cleaning and storage of the concession stand and equipment was undertaken. Operations. With the close of the ballpark, we are in a planning phase with the ballpark manager to outline a plan of action for the 2020 season regarding repairs, upgrades, and direction for the ballpark's future. We continue to receive calls for information and requests to book events for the coming season. The Ballpark Commission continued to have meetings and workshops throughout this quarter. Work started for the fiscal year 2021 annual budget process and will continue through May. Over the course of the 2019 season, conversations were held with various organizations to locate a team to play college or professional level baseball in the 2020 season. None of these have resulted in securing a team. However, in October and November, we did have some high-level discussions with the Can-Am League to host a team in Old Orchard Beach for the 2020 season. But 1 week prior to our next round of discussions, the Can-Am League merged with the Frontier League, and it turned out to be too late to commit for a 2020 team. Since that time, we have received notification that the Frontier League is very interested in hosting a team at Ballpark for the 2020 season. Locating an ownership or ownership group is the final obstacle that is preventing the Frontier League from beginning negotiations with the town. So if anyone knows of anybody that might be interested in owning a team or becoming part of an ownership group, please contact Guy Fontaine, the Ballpark manager. They want to play a few exhibition games in Old Orchard in the 2020 season and to announce that they will be hosting the team at the Ballpark for 2021 season sometime in May of 2020. A total of 11 events were held at the Ballpark in fiscal year 20, quarter 2. Included in these were 9 baseball events from 3 different leagues and 2 other events. A breakdown of the events is shown in the tables below. Special acknowledgement. We wish, as always, to thank the town manager, Larry Mead, and the town council for their continued support at the Ballpark. We also wish to acknowledge the support of Diana Ann Sanson and the finance group, as well as the public works and recreation departments throughout the year. And finally, we want to thank the residents of Old Orchard Beach, Saco, Biddeford, Scarborough, and all other nearby communities who come to the events in the Ballpark. While the Ballpark is physically located in Old Orchard Beach, it is in fact everyone's ballpark, with hundreds of baseball games, concerts, and other events each year. Most of these events are free to the public and all are family oriented. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Moving forward to a public hearing. Shall we amend the Town of Old Orchard Beach Code of Ordinances, Section 54-187, Restriction and Prohibition, amending flow of traffic on Fern Avenue, making traffic one-way from First Street to Washington Avenue, and on West Old Orchard Avenue, making traffic one-way from Washington Avenue to First Street. And before I open the public hearing, I believe the town manager has a presentation.
Yes, thank you, Chair. This will be very brief. Just want to do a couple of slides. These slides are from the public hearing, the neighborhood meeting that was held last,
Thank you.
I think it was the day after the last council meeting, January 6th or 8th. It was held right here at the council chambers to give a chance for people who own property on those streets or are residents of those streets to come in and see what is planned for Fern Avenue, West Old Orchard, and a portion of Washington Avenue. And we had good attendance. There was about 20 people there. Good comments, good interaction. So what the proposal before you tonight, or not a proposal, actually the public hearing, is to talk about the proposed change of Fern Avenue and West Old Orchard Avenue to one-way travel. What is prompting that is the proposed work on those 2 streets that we hope is going to take place this spring. There was funding that the town secured from the through the federal program, Community Development Block Grants, that is distributed to the state's Department of Economic and Community Development. We applied for and received a grant totaling $1 million targeted on this neighborhood, and the town is matching, between the town and the water district, there are matching funds that equal about another $1 million. So we have about $2 million available for this project. As I said at the neighborhood meeting, given the bidding climate that has been in existence recently, it's not clear to me yet that that when the bids come in, that we'll have enough money to do everything we want to do, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But what the work would involve is, as you can see from this slide, is replacement of infrastructure on these 2 streets. And the real target here was the sewer and stormwater, the stuff underground that is 100+ years old in many instances here, and that we've had different problems with, and residents have had problems with in the past. The reason these 2 streets were selected was because the problems with the sewer system were more acute on these 2 streets than the other nearby streets. We really wanted to do everything between Union and Heath Street, essentially, Union and Atlantic, and First and Washington, but we just don't have enough money for that right now. So we're starting here, and the work will include, in addition to the underground infrastructure, water as well as sewer and stormwater. It will include the replacement of the sidewalk on each of the streets. The sidewalks are located on one side of each street, and it will be replaced on one side of each street. There will be curbing will be added. There's curbing on most of one side of the streets, but not on the other. But it's in very poor condition and worn down. That's going to help a lot with the stormwater problems that we have on these streets, particularly as you get down towards First Avenue to channel the water. We have a real problem with that at this point. Where necessary, we're also going to relocate a few utility poles that are in the middle of the sidewalks. I have a couple of photographs that I'll show you that kind of give a good illustration of the problems with the sidewalks. You can see that's a grassy area in the what used to be a sidewalk in there, and then you have driveways that have been put in various locations that are not in good shape at this point in time, so they create tripping hazards. And then you have these clear types of obstructions. That's a guy wire from a utility pole. Not only is the guy wire in the middle of the sidewalk, but the utility pole is in the middle of the sidewalk as well. This is not the utility pole. This is a different utility pole on another sidewalk. So there's more than one, but you can see that, and then the tree behind that as well is both in the road and in the sidewalk. And then you get another example there of a driveway cutout, which just creates really difficult walking conditions on these streets. So the work that's being proposed is going to really significantly improve pedestrian safety on these streets, and also will give an advantage for bicycles as well, because the proposal to make these one-way streets is done because of the limited travel width that we have in the roads. We have basically 30 feet to work from on these two streets. And in part that's because, as is typical in Old Orchard Beach, over the years, the streets weren't laid out necessarily exactly straight. I mean, not in the middle of the right-of-way. Homes were built close to the right-of-way. Porches are added, walls are added, and over the years, they kind of become a part of the owner's property, whether it's on town property or not. So that limits the travel lane that you really get to work with here. So we're really talking about 30 feet. And so what you see is you've got a 5.5-foot sidewalk, and then a half a foot for curbing. So you got a 6-foot dimension to deal with the sidewalk. The current sidewalks are about 4 feet wide. It's necessary to go to this width, both because it's actually going to improve, of course, the ability to walk on them, but also because we are using federal funds, we are obligated to follow ADA requirements for accessible travel on these sidewalks. And so that the minimum width to do that is that 5.5 feet. We'll also be putting in tip downs as needed at the intersections, and that'll improve things a lot too. So, and I apologize for that. So, but then you have an 8-foot parking distance that's in place in addition to the sidewalk, and then you have a 16-foot travel lane that's left after the sidewalk, the curbing, and the parking. And the 16 feet is just not safe dimensions to be able to put two-way travel on that amount of distance. So that's where the one-way travel proposal comes from. The intention would be that the travel on Fern Avenue is one way from First Street to Washington Avenue, so going up the hill, and the travel on West Old Orchard Ave is one way from Washington Avenue to First Street, so you end up going down the hill. And that's really, that we've reviewed this in-house with staff and with our engineers public safety input in terms of what would constitute a safe width for two-way travel versus one-way travel. And be glad to answer your questions, but really this is more to give information to the public and then allow the public comment.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So at this point, we will open this public hearing at 6:46. Are there any members of the public wishing to speak under this public hearing this evening?
Good evening, Council. My
Good
name is
evening.
Mark Koenigs. I'm at 38 Fern Avenue. So 38 Fern Avenue is at 3rd Street. Far to merge this epicenter of this project. I've been away for a while. I'm really happy to see that this project is on the agenda and going forward. I know that your question tonight is just on the one-way. I think some of the things that you should consider that may not be raised by the town manager's proposal and presentation tonight is the plowing. Considerations I mentioned at the meeting. I was late to the meeting that was for the public, but I met with the town manager and Stephanie, the engineer, with Wright Pierce, and also Joe Cooper. And Cooper said that he could plow it, but just thinking of it, you're plowing, all of your plows in the city are set up with the right-hand wing, right? So it's all, you're always plowing to the right side. So if you're plowing on a one-way, you're gonna be going up the street on Fern, putting the snow on the sidewalk side where all the parking's at. Of course, all the cars can't park there during the plowing event, during a snow emergency. But that pushes all the plow, that's what happens now. So it's the same plowing route, I believe. But if you're gonna plow it, you're just pushing the snow to where you want people to walk. So now the homeowners are gonna have to plow that, shovel that back off, and you have to put it onto your property per the ordinance, right? So these are things to consider. I mean, right now, there's a lack, probably of enforcement. It's always an enforcement idea of like, how do you get people to, do their civic duty and shovel off their sidewalks and their driveways in an appropriate manner. The neighborhood is very dense. It's a kind of quiet, old neighborhood. As the town manager alluded to, it's 100 years old infrastructure. It does need upgrade. So this is a perfect place to start, trying to show that it's an investment in the town. So I'm for the project. I'm also for the one-way. It doesn't even sound like my testimony here tonight doesn't sound like for the one-way, but I think it'll allow the emergency vehicles access with more width. Right now, the people are walking in the streets because the sidewalks are not really safe to walk on in some places where there's no sidewalk or the sidewalk's lawn or broken pavement. That's probably true all over town. But any project that we can get federally grant money and match that, that's a welcome event. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Council.
Good evening.
Thank you for holding this public hearing. Robin Dayton, 59 Fern Avenue. So I'm right at the top of Fern. I feel like I'd be one of the ones that's most impacted by the one-way. When I come off of Washington, my house is right there at the corner, and if you make this a one-way going up the hill, I literally have to go all the way around the block to get to my house, which I know the chief doesn't like it, but I already told him I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna drive all the way around the block. Literally I'd have to go four corners to get to my house. In this day and age, it doesn't make any sense. It's more gas, more pollution, more of a hassle, more of everything. But there's a few other things I have to say. I'm disappointed that we didn't know about this when we first started this project. I have been one of the people impacted by the sewer problem, so I do understand how important this project is, and I certainly support it. I just don't support the one-way on the street. That being said, as you may know, this area, Washington Ave, has become a focal point for the CFC to revitalize. My concern about the sidewalk is there's a greater risk on Washington Ave where we don't have sidewalks, and Washington Ave and the extension of Washington Ave is part of this project. And I guess what I have to say is I'm disappointed that we're focusing on the sidewalks in Fern Avenue and West Old Orchard when on Washington Avenue, where the bus now goes both ways, okay? It used to only go one way as a loop, but now it comes both ways on Washington Avenue. And there's no place really for it to stop, and when it does stop, there's no sidewalk on the right-hand side going down Washington Ave, like towards the church. From a public safety point of view, it doesn't make any sense to be focusing on the sidewalks on Fern Ave and West Old Orchard when you have literally children and people, even in wheelchairs, trying to get on and off the bus on Washington Ave, and also trying to get on and off the buses that go in and out for the Salvation Army. I just think there needs to be another look at what, you know, just because it's federal funds doesn't mean you can't think out of the box, okay? You all know that there are waivers, there are ways around this. I would gladly, I can't speak for everybody, but I would gladly give up a foot of, you know, my side of the front if it meant that we could keep Fern Avenue both ways. And putting in the sidewalks is great, but they're not going to be plowed. The sidewalks aren't going to be plowed. The town manager has said that. Mr. Cooper has said that. We don't have the resources. So we're increasing the sidewalk size, and we're putting in curbing on the opposite side where there is no sidewalk. And a lot of people in the summertime park cars on their lawn, which they're not going to be able to do if now there's a curb. So, and I know the curbing, that's granite, that's expensive. So can we just think out of the box and think a little bit differently and get the engineer back in here and take into consideration the public safety aspect of the bus coming down the Washington Extension, going all the way, you know, to Saco Ave, where that's where we need sidewalks, is where the bus goes. And I think there's ways around this that we haven't considered. I can't sit, you know, I just encourage you, come to my corner, come to Fern Ave in Washington, watch the bus go down, it's big. And I have no problems, I'm glad the bus is there. I'm glad we're doing this project, but we're just not thinking about it in a holistic way. And that's what I would encourage council to encourage the administration to do. It wouldn't take much to rethink this a little bit. Look at the bigger picture. We also have a brand new coming in, a 6-unit condo right there at the corner of Washington and Union where the bus is going and no sidewalks. So there's a lot that needs to be done. I just don't think the sidewalks on Fern and West Old Orchard are the ones that need all the attention and then make the streets one way. That just doesn't really make sense, and it doesn't fly. And I'd also like to say that I counted the number of people at the information meeting. There was more like 30. There was more than 20. There was at least 30, and there was a lot of discussion about the curbing on the sides where there's no sidewalk, and a lot of discussion of people not liking that. So that's why I'm suggesting forgo the curbing on the side where there's no sidewalk and put some of that money for sidewalks on Washington Avenue, keep the streets the way they are, and really improve the public safety for the whole area. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Alexis Harris. I'm representing West Old Orchard. I have 2 questions. Are we going to be parking on both sides of the street or just one?
My understanding from the presentation is one side parking.
So we're going to lose a lot of parking with the extra curbing. My other question, Larry had mentioned about if we don't have enough money, how are the projects going to be ranked?
Well, we'll have to see what the bids come in at, and let's, you know, if we don't see good bids and we're needing to really do what's called value engineering, then what we would probably end up doing is bring forward to the town council a proposal for a scaled down project I can't tell you what that would look like now, whether it would only be one street or, I don't know. It depends on how the bids come in. So can't tell you until we really see those bids.
Thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Hi, Maureen Harlan, I live on West Old Orchard Avenue. I have two questions, well, two concerns. One is also the parking, because as it is right now, during the summertime, people park on both sides of the road and the street is extremely busy. So if you're only gonna have parking on one side of the street, where are all these other people gonna go if there's no place for anybody to park? And how about those of us who live here year-round? You know, the people come in here for the tourists, we're all gonna lose our parking spots. So has anybody thought about what's gonna happen if we're only gonna be allowed to park on one side? Because there are plenty of people who park on the other side of the road. So that was my concern. The second thing I have is, when you start putting in the new water lines and everything, when are people gonna be informed if they're outside of the right of the way, when we have to pay for our own lines coming into the house? Do we know when we're going to be told about this if we find out that our lines aren't up to code or whatever it is?
Well, that's really completely outside the realm of what we're addressing here tonight.
Oh, well,
But
I know, that was just a question I had, I
I
didn't
don't
know,
know
so.
Larry, if you have the answer to that,
Yeah, after we're done, I'll be glad to, after the hearing, I'll be glad, but
Okay.
before we adjourn this, but I'll be glad to try to address that question.
All right, so
Yep.
yeah, so my main thing was about the parking, so,
I
okay.
appreciate that. Thank you.
Good evening, councilors.
Good evening.
Thank you for having this evening. My name is Charles Cardozo. I'm from West Old Orchard. And again, I just want to reiterate the concern about the parking. You know, where we're going to lose one side of the street of parking. You know, where the, and a lot of it have to do with residents. And I'm one of those. I'll end up losing 2 parking spaces, and then my options are limited. So, but I'm not the only one in that boat. So I would really appreciate to take a real close look at the parking situation before you make a decision. Thank you.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak under this public hearing this evening?
Through the chair.
Sir, go ahead.
Larry, oops. Right now, there's parking on both sides, correct?
No.
There's not parking on both
No,
sides of the street
no.
now?
No. I'd be glad to address the question. So legally, there is no parking on both sides of the street. What does happen certainly is that some people are pulling up half on the lawn, half in the street, half in front of their house or whatever, that does happen. I think the police department certainly, and the residents can speak to that point. With respect to the parking, there's no doubt that it will reduce the ability of people to do some of what they've been doing in the past, but it won't totally eliminate it. There will be curb cuts that are going to be in front of each parcel, each property, and people would potentially be able to pull in on using their curb cut, and not everybody, but some people have the ability to park on the lawn, and as they're doing now partially anyway, or at the side of their house. But it's going to certainly be more of an impact on those properties that people are renting and bringing in multiple numbers of vehicles when they come in summer. So that potentially could be an issue. But we are going to talk with, if people want to come in and before we actually do the work and sit down and look at what the curb cut's going to look like in front of their property. I offered that at the neighborhood meeting that we had, and I'm glad to do that with any residents in terms of looking at your specific property.
Does that curb have to be
Can
there?
I just for 1 second, and then I'll get back to you. I just want to clarify just one more time. If anybody from the public, before I close the public hearing, and then we'll turn it over to the council, but does anybody else want to talk under the public hearing? Okay. We're going to close the public hearing at 7 o'clock, and I'll turn it back over to you, sir. Sorry.
Does that new curbing have to be put there? Is that part of
It doesn't
federal
ha-
funds?
It does not have to be put there. No, it does not. And
So-
the question, I think, really is, the reason for putting in the curbing is that it will clearly help us with the stormwater significantly, particularly as we get down towards, past Second Street, going down towards where First Street is. And the other piece really is just to better define the road structure itself. The
But it
curb is
doesn't have
not
to
going to
be
be
that.
granite curb, it's going to be bituminous curb. That's what it will be. We have some discussion about potentially putting in a slightly sloped curb so that people could pull up
Like
on
45.
on one side, you know, potentially. So that's a possibility as well.
So Highland Ave is the first road.
Pardon me?
Highland is the first one off them.
We're not doing Highland.
I know,
Yeah.
but is it going to be done later on?
Well, certainly, all of those, I think Highland needs to be done, Cedar needs to be done.
So is what gonna happen then, is every other street's gonna be one way going down and one way coming back
That
up,
would
all
be
the way down?
That would be the logical thing to do, and the reason that the reason it's laid out so that Fern goes from First to Washington and West Old Orchard from Washington to First is really because of Highland. Because if you look at the intersection of Highland, this comes up, with Washington Avenue, it's very close to so Washington Avenue actually goes to the right towards, where am I here? Yeah, so there's Highland, and Washington Avenue goes this way over by the Salvation Army, and then Washington Avenue Extension goes straight over to Union Avenue. So the reason that Highland would be, logically, you'd have one-way traffic going this direction is so that you don't have you have more of a likelihood here of traffic interference pulling out and turning from Highland going this way because of these vehicles coming here. So from a traffic engineering, public safety standpoint, it makes sense to make that one way going in that direction and the others this way.
So there's no way of engineering those streets so that they have two-way traffic?
Not if you're gonna have a sidewalk in there, no.
And that sidewalk has to be that size for the federal funding?
Yes.
And how much wider is the sidewalk, because I missed that, than the existing sidewalk now?
The sidewalk now is about 4 feet, and so it's 18 inches wider, and then the curb, but the curb is actually pretty much already there, so it's about 18 to 20 inches wider on that one side of the street.
And then what's the width of the road that you need to have two-way traffic to make it safe? Does the chief know that? Does anybody know that?
Well, the travel lane on each one, so.
Yeah. I mean, there's gotta be a certain width.
Right, well, 8 feet is not.
I realize that,
yeah.
but what needs to be the width?
I would say, what, 10 feet? Travel lane? At least 10, yeah, at least 10.
I mean, I don't like one-way roads myself. I don't live over there, I don't travel over there.
Right.
I've never particularly liked one-way roads, so I didn't know if there was some way we could work around that, that's all.
Yeah. Other than eliminating the sidewalk, I don't think so. You know, the reality is these older streets were developed before the advent of the types of vehicles that we have now. That the vehicles we have now are a lot bigger than they used to be. So when you're parking, you're taking up more room. When you're driving, you're taking up more room.
They had some pretty big cars in the 50s, but,
Pardon me?
they had some pretty big cars in the 50s, but,
They were long.
yeah.
I don't know if they were as wide.
Any more comments or questions from the council? Seeing none, we will move forward.
Can I address the
Absolutely.
the
Go ahead,
woman
sir.
who was asking about, the resident who was asking about the water lines and the sewer lines as they get closer to your house? So one good thing is that the distance, because of the way the street is set up, the distance from where the town's responsibility is and where the homeowner's responsibility isn't very great. It's very rare over there that you'd find a long distance. So the likelihood is that as we go in there, if the town is having to deal with it, with a bad line from your house, it's going to be probably, in order for us to put in any kind of a decent connection, we'd have to go back far enough that it's going to take care of most, if not all, of your line anyway. So that's not a guarantee, but that's a likelihood that that's how it's going to be. And we wouldn't really know until you get in there and you start digging it up.
Does this have to do with the public hearing that's over? Well, unless the council wants to,
But I'm glad to answer any questions after the meeting about as individual properties, which we were willing to do at the neighborhood meeting as well.
yeah, I think if you have any questions, or if you'd like to reach out to any of us afterwards, that'd be fine. And moving forward, public hearing, business license and approval. Jonathan Tebbetts, doing business as Tebbs 2, 206-26-4D, 34D Saco Avenue, year-round retail smoke shop with hemp products. And Barbara Hickey and Jeffrey Fairbanks, 107-3-6-15, 6 Country Drive, 1 year-round bedroom rental with a 2 occupant maximum.
Through the chair, if I may,
Sir.
make a motion, we split the items, handle each one individually.
Second.
Second, any further discussion? Seeing none, we will split the 2 items. The first public hearing, business license and approval, Jonathan Tebbetts, doing business as Tibbs 2, 206-26-4D, 34D Saco Avenue, year-round retail smoke shop with hemp products. And we'll open that public hearing at 19:07. Any comments from the public? Any comments, questions from the council?
Through the chair.
Sir.
Larry, on that business license for the smoke shop and hemp products, that's non-THC stuff, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Any further comments, questions? Seeing none, we'll close that public.
I have a question.
Oh, sir, go ahead.
And it may be premature at this time, and this probably be something for Jeffrey, but signage, exposure, what are we looking at? Has there been discussions on this?
Jeffrey Hindeleiter, Town Planner. I know that there has been some discussion downstairs. The applicant has looked into applying for the signage, and as I advised the Code Enforcement Office, that we have to take into the whole building into account when we calculate the total signage area for the property. One of the questions was the applicant wanted to put essentially posters up on the windows, and that's generally not a permissible use unless it's for an event. One thing that we have a difficult time with is pretty much we have a lot of violations of that around town. You could pick up any business and they have some sort of poster in their building. But nonetheless, that does not grant that business the authority or the permission to do it. If you're thinking more of the appearance, the type of sign.
I'm thinking size.
Mm-hmm. Size is they're going to be limited. I don't know the exact calculations, but they're going to be limited due to the size of the signs that exist right now. A lot of that sign area is taken up.
Okay. And blinking lights in the windows, what's the rule on that?
Blinking lights are typically allowed. It depends on the length of the blinking. But it's something we're actually looking at right now with the Design Review Committee is revisiting our sign standards. Because there's standards in there that folks think exist, but they don't actually truly exist.
Okay. So we can't have a poster, but I could have a fluorescent light that said CBDs or whatever it is, 5 feet square if I wanted.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further comments, questions from the council? Is there a motion?
Through the chair, if I may.
You may.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll carry 5-0, and apologize, we'll close that public hearing at 7:10. And for the second business license and approval, Barbara Hickey and Jeffrey Fairbanks, 107-3-6-15, 6 Country Drive, 1 year-round bedroom rental with a 2 occupant maximum. And the public hearing, this agenda item was tabled at our previous meeting. The public hearing has already occurred for this agenda item. was open and closed. So at this point, I'll turn it over to where we were at the time it was tabled, which is with the council for discussion or action. Any comments or questions from the council?
Through the chair.
Sir.
I want to thank the council for postponing it. I was actually absent at that meeting. I do, go ahead. Somebody say something? I do understand how the residents may not want the business license to go through over there because of covenants that they entered into. However, as counselor, I can't enforce covenants that are in a private residence. With that said, I'd like to make a motion to approve the business license for for rental of one room at 6 County Drive to include the following conditions: that occupancy of the rental room is limited to no more than 2 people, that no food, including but not limited to morning meals, may be served or provided to occupants of the rental room by the license holders, and that for the purposes of food preparation or consumption, occupants of the rental room are not allowed the use of the property's kitchen or any areas other than the room provided for the sleeping quarters.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any further comments from the council?
Through the chair, if I may.
You may.
This is, and does put the council in an awkward position. Although it is allowed by ordinance in that area, I stated it, not the last meeting, as I was absent the last meeting, but the meeting before, it puts council on a slippery slope. When we're gonna get in the business of renting one room, we don't have the resources to keep up with that. If everybody in this community wants to rent one bedroom, we do not have the resources to accommodate those requests. I'll state the facts first. The fact that we denied somebody in the same development an opportunity to move forward with a license within the last 3 years for the same request is one reason I'm going to vote against approval. Secondly, these folks have been doing this for I believe 2 to 3 years now without a license, which raises a greater concern. And to me, that's a sign of arrogance towards the town. We can do what we want because it's our house. Thirdly, it's more or less a bed and breakfast. It's a skirt around a bed and breakfast license that we as councilors don't need to deal with. We really do not. Staff doesn't need to deal with it. You're either a bed and breakfast or you're a house rental. You cannot be one and the same in one house. You can't do it. If you want a license for bed and breakfast and it qualifies for that zone, I'm more than happy to accommodate that request. But to rent one bedroom to me just does not make sense because of the resources it's going to exhaust. I guess, and thirdly, more so and importantly, this is I'm laying the foundation to have this ordinance changed so that we aren't faced with this question in the future. Because for us to rent one bedroom in each house, potentially in each house in this town, just doesn't make sense. I fully support businesses in this town, fully support bed and breakfasts, but to have an individual in a single-family housing development or anywhere in my neighborhood, Kenny's neighborhood, Mike's neighborhood, it doesn't make sense that we're going to exhaust the resources to allow these to take place. So that's the only reason I'm in opposition of moving this forward tonight.
Thank you, sir. Any further comments from the council? Ms. Reed, if you'd call the question.
Councilor Blow.
Yes.
Councilor Kelly.
Yes.
Councilor Signet.
Yes.
Vice Chair O'Neill.
No.
And Chair Thornton.
Yes. We'll carry 4-1, and the license has been issued. And I'll just add to the end here, just in echoing the Vice Chair's comments, I vote yes in this because of the current ordinances in the town, and I feel I'm restricted by them, and therefore I voted yes. To the residents that feel they're going to be affected by this or feel they already have been affected by that, your comments do not fall on deaf ears. If you're having problems, seeing problems, and you're not getting the response from the town you think you should get, reach out to me because I want to know about it. If the license is being violated in any of these conditions, I can't speak for anybody else on the council, but I can tell you I want to know about it. So I heard everybody's comments. I understand everyone's concerns, and hopefully those that were opposed to this don't walk away feeling that your comments fell on deaf ears, because they didn't. I feel like I was restricted by law and needed to vote the way that the law is written and the ordinances that are in place. That being said, we have added some conditions, and if you see them being violated, I'm going to take the same approach. The law will guide the way I react. So those conditions are now attached to this license, so let us know, or well, let the town know first. If you don't feel that they're responding the way that you need them to, reach out to me and I'll help you through that.
Through the chair.
Sir.
I agree, 100%. Thank you. Thank you, Sean.
Okay, moving forward to the town manager's report.
Thank you, Chair Thornton. I've been continuing to work with our department heads on developing capital budgets for the FY21 budget year. The Finance Committee is going to begin meeting the first week of February to begin their review of the capital budget. They should wrap that up by the first week of March. And then the capital budget and the operating budget will be presented to council, I believe it's the meeting of March 17th. The town received 4 bids for the wastewater administration building project. They were good bids, even in this bidding climate. They came in good stead. They were from quality companies, and 2 of them came in within our projected budget and our allotted funds. So I hope to be able to finalize a recommendation on an award and bring that to your business meetings either on February 4th or February 18th. The state legislature this past session passed a bill that's going to provide a one-time additional tax relief to all homestead property owners in the state. And I'm told that the checks for the town of Old Orchard Beach homestead property owners are going to be mailed this week, probably today, perhaps tomorrow. So each homeowner should receive in the mail this week a check for $104. This is a one-time refund for this year, and it's not likely it's going to occur again next year. So it might be a little confusing to people when they get it as to why they're getting it and are they going to get it again next year, but that's why you're getting it, and probably you won't get it again next year. But it's a good opportunity for me to remind residents who own their own home and who live there as a primary address, year-round resident, about the homestead exemption. So that will remain in place, and it's a property tax relief program that's available to anyone who's a homeowner who's a full-time resident, regardless of age or income. Under the homestead program, the valuation on your house is reduced by $25,000. So given our current property tax rate in Old Orchard Beach of $15.30 per $1,000 of value, that lowers your property tax bill by $382, whatever the value of your house is. That can be significant savings for many of our homeowners. So for example, if you have a $200,000 house valued at $200,000, that's the $382 reduction is 12.5% of your tax bill. If you own a mobile home, let's say, that $382 could be as much as 50% of your tax bill. So it is significant for many homeowners. If you don't think that you're receiving the homestead exemption, please call our assessor's office or our finance department and ask about that and ask about the program. To qualify as a homestead, you have to file, and you don't have one now, you have to file your application or no later than April 1st of this year, or you will not be able to receive it for this tax year, this coming tax year. So keep that date in mind, April 1st. That's, and it's a one-time application as long as you live in the same property and remain a year-round resident. And keeping with the theme of property tax relief, I want to just report that the Town Council this past year implemented a new program that was directed towards residents who are at least 7 years of age and who have lived in Old Orchard Beach for 10 years or more, and who are eligible from an income standpoint. In order to qualify this program, you have to apply for and be ruled eligible for the State of Maine's Property Tax Relief Program. You do that when you file your Maine state income tax. And even if you don't have to pay taxes, you can file that tax form and be qualified for this property tax reduction. So I encourage people to look into that. This year, the first year that we've done it, the town received 41 applications. 30 of the applicants did qualify, and a total of $19,462 of reductions was given. The average reduction in taxes was $650. So again, for information about this program, contact our town finance department, and you can also get information on our website. Our human resources manager, Fran Boyer, is organizing, she's already begun working on recruitment and hiring, as are many of our departments. For the 2020 summer and seasonal job openings, we're looking for applicants for full-time and part-time seasonal positions with the police department, our lifeguards, public works, recreation, the ballpark, wastewater, parking enforcement. I think that's most of them. We're going to be having a job fair on Monday, February 17th, right here in council chambers from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. That's a legal holiday, but we're doing it on that date because it's also the first day of school vacation, and so we're hoping some of those age-eligible people, that age group, will be ready to come in and talk to us, but anyone else can as well. For information about the job fair, you can contact my office or Fran Boyer in the HR department, or look online, and we invite people to come in on the 17th and learn about those openings. We'll conduct interviews on the spot, so come dressed for an interview and bring a resume if you have one, or if you just want to come and ask questions and get information, you can do that too. But it's that easy to look into jobs for the coming summer here in Old Orchard Beach. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. To new business. Agenda item 7614, discussion with action to accept the proposal from Eagle Network Solutions for IT services for the town of Old Orchard Beach in an amount not to exceed $20,000 from account number 20102-50454, computer support services, with a balance of $63,967.70.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, will carry 5-0. Item 7615, discussion with action to amend Chapter 78 zoning, Article 3, conformance and nonconformance, Division 2, nonconformities, Section 78-180, appeals from restrictions on nonconforming uses. And I guess I'd probably call on Jeffrey just to go over this one more time for us. If you don't mind just giving us a quick rundown just for the public's benefit.
Jeffrey Hindeleiter, Town Planner. And what this ordinance currently allows is the nonconforming use of land and the nonconforming use of a structure to be extended out to 10 years. And it's not only extending the use, it's also being able to turn one nonconforming use into another nonconforming use, which is a pretty drastic ordinance standard. What we are proposing with this amendment is to remove that standard, so our other nonconforming use standard, which has a 2-year limitation and does not have that ability to switch to another nonconforming use. It takes that 10-year limitation and that transfer to another nonconforming use out of it, and it goes with the 2-year, which is very common with pretty much all other ordinances throughout the state.
Very good, thank you.
Sure.
Comments or questions from council? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, carry 5-0. To item 7616, discussion with action to reappoint Donald Comoletti as a regular member of the Design Review Committee, term to expire December 31st, 2021. Excuse me. Reappoint Thomas Morris as a regular member of the Zoning Board of Appeals, term to expire December 31st, 2022. and reappoint Thomas Morris as a regular member of the Comprehensive Plan Committee, term to expire 12/31/2021.
So moved.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, carried 5-0. To item 7617, discussion with action to grant the authority to the finance director and treasurer to disburse payroll checks with only one town councilor's signature in accordance with MRSA Title 30A, Section 5603, 2A1.
Second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, carried 5-0. Item 7619, discussion with action to accept the quote from Viking Saves USA in the amount of $8,850 to overhaul Public Works electric sander to a hydraulic sander from account number 20151-504552, operating equipment repair expense with a balance of $50,561.84. And council, there is a request to remove this agenda item without prejudice. The Public Works Department has come up with a different option they'd like to approach first before they expend this money.
Through the chair, if I may.
You may.
Make a motion, we remove this item without prejudice.
Second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll carry 5-0.
That eliminates my two questions.
And I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion has been made. Second. Thank you all. Have a very good evening.